Under the golden glow of a crisp morning sun in Austin, Texas, a city pulsing with the heartbeat of America's tech revolution, no one could have predicted the storm about to break. It didn't come from rolling thunderclouds or howling winds, but from a sleek black Tesla Model X gliding silently to a stop outside the towering glass and steel fortress of Apex Trust, one of the city's most prestigious banks. Inside the car, a man with eyes as sharp as tempered steel gripped the steering wheel, not out of nerves but with a fire sparking deep in his chest. Elon Musk, a name that echoes across continents, had come for something simple: a loan. What he got instead was a smug rejection from a banker who thought himself untouchable. "You think I'm just a dreamer spinning fantasies?" Musk muttered to himself, his voice low like the growl of an engine beneath polished metal. "Fine. They'll see this dream can burn their whole world to ash." Within hours, secret phone calls crackled to life, contracts were inked in the shadows, and a daring plan took shape. As the sun dipped below Austin's skyline, painting the bank's gleaming facade in hues of amber, Apex Trust stood serene, oblivious to the darkness creeping closer, not from the sky, but from the hands of the man they'd just scorned. Days later, the building bore his name, and those who'd laughed at him trembled in despair. This isn't just a tale of money or power, it's about how one man turned rejection into a weapon and reduced a proud bank to rubble. You won't believe what happens next. But stick around, because this story will keep you hooked until the very last word. The morning unfolded like any other in Austin. Paved streets shimmered under the sun's glare, car horns blended with the chatter of birds in the leafy trees, and the air buzzed with the restless energy of a city on the rise. Apex Trust loomed over downtown, its mirrored facade reflecting the endless blue sky, a monument to wealth and stability, a silent boast. "We are unshakable." Shout! Inside, the hum of the typical workday filled the space. Young staffers darted through corridors clutching coffee cups, phones rang in a relentless chorus, and computer screens flickered like the pulse of a financial titan. On the 42nd floor, James Harrow sat behind a polished walnut desk in a corner office with a panoramic view of the sprawling city below. At 54, he was the picture of success. Silver hair swept back neatly, a tailored gray suit hugging a still-fit frame, and thin-framed glasses that lent him an air of scholarly authority rather than the cunning banker he truly was. Behind him, a shelf displayed curated family photos. Vacations in the Maldives with waves crashing against white sands, his daughter's Yale graduation with her cap tassel swinging in the breeze, a handshake with the Texas governor under a blazing sun. Harrow wasn't just a banker. He was a pillar of Austin's elite, a man convinced he held the keys to the city's financial order, a gatekeeper who decided which dreams lived and which died. But that morning, his carefully constructed world teetered on the edge of chaos, sparked by an unexpected visitor. When the elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, Elon Musk stepped out, his presence calm yet magnetic, like a storm cloud drifting silently across a clear sky. A plain, black jacket clung to his lean frame, and his piercing eyes seemed to cut through everything in their path: walls, people, pretense. Beside him walked Sarah Klein, his longtime assistant, a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s with blonde hair tied high in a no-nonsense bun, cradling a thick stack of meticulously prepared documents like a soldier bearing arms. "Good morning," Musk said, his deep voice resonating in the hushed reception area, carrying a weight that made the air feel heavier. Margaret, the seasoned desk clerk with graying hair pinned back, looked up with a start. She recognized him instantly. Who wouldn't? But clung to professionalism despite the flutter in her chest. "Good morning, Mr. Musk. You're here to see Mr. Harrow, I presume?" she replied, her fingers hovering over the intercom. "That's right," Musk said, a faint, unreadable smile tugging at his lips, the kind that could mean anything: courtesy, amusement, or a predator sizing up prey. "Let him know I'm here." Margaret fumbled with the intercom, her voice trembling slightly as she pressed the button. "Mr. Harrow, Mr. Elon Musk is here. He's waiting." On the other end, Harrow frowned, setting his coffee cup down with a soft clink against the saucer. He hadn't expected Musk to show up in person. Men like him usually sent finance teams for deals this size, faceless suits with spreadsheets. But Harrow wasn't fazed. He straightened his tie with a practiced flick, rose from his leather chair, and strode out with the confident grin of a man accustomed to power, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. "Mr. Musk, pleasure to meet you," Harrow said, extending a hand, his voice smooth as polished stone. Musk gripped it firmly, his handshake a quiet assertion, his gaze unwavering, locking onto Harrow's eyes like a laser finding its mark. "Likewise, Mr. Harrow. I'm here for something important," Musk replied, his tone steady but carrying an undercurrent Harrow couldn't quite place. Determination, perhaps, or something sharper. They entered the office, the door closing with a soft thud behind them. Sarah placed the document stack on the desk with a deliberate thump, settling beside Musk like a sentinel. Harrow studied the man across from him, trying to read the enigmatic figure known for wild ideas that somehow became reality. Electric cars that defied Detroit, rockets that pierced the heavens. "I hear you're here about a loan," Harrow began, his tone casual but laced with curiosity, leaning back slightly in his chair as if to signal he held the upper hand. $500 million for SpaceX, correct? Musk leaned forward, his eyes igniting with a passion that seemed to light the room, a fire Harrow couldn't ignore even if he tried. "That's right. We're accelerating Starship, the ship that'll take humanity to Mars. The new Texas factory needs capital to launch, and I want Apex Trust to be part of this mission." His voice carried a conviction that vibrated through the air, each word a brick in a vision so vast it dwarfed the office they sat in. Harrow flipped open the dossier, his fingers brushing the pages with the practiced ease of a veteran who'd seen 1,000 proposals come and go. Numbers danced before him. Long-term profit forecasts stretching into decades. Risk analyses plotted with surgical precision, collateral breakdowns tying together a web of companies like Tesla and SpaceX, all calculated with a stunning clarity that spoke of sleepless nights and relentless ambition. Yet when he looked up, his smile carried a hint of arrogance, a curl at the edges that betrayed his thoughts before he spoke. "Mr. Musk, your vision is impressive," Harrow said, his words deliberate, measured, like a judge delivering a verdict. "But I'm afraid these numbers, they're overly optimistic. The collateral structure's a maze, too tangled for our liking, and this Mars revenue, forgive my bluntness, sounds more like science fiction than a business plan." He leaned back, folding his hands, his tone dripping with the confidence of a man who believed he'd seen it all. The room grew heavy, the air thickening as if the walls themselves held their breath. Sarah glanced at Musk, noting his hand tighten on the chair's armrest, knuckles whitening beneath the skin, though his face remained eerily calm, a mask of control over the storm brewing within. "Science fiction?" Musk echoed, his voice dropping to a dangerous murmur, each syllable a shard of ice. "You thought Tesla was fiction when I started. SpaceX too. Where are they now, Mr. Harrow? My numbers don't lie, they build worlds." Harrow shrugged, unfazed, his lips twitching into a smirk. "I've been in this game over 30 years, Mr. Musk. I get your enthusiasm, admire it even, but we have strict standards. Our shareholders demand certainty, not far-off dreams. I'm afraid we'll have to pass." He spread his hands as if to say the matter was settled, a king dismissing a petitioner. Silence swallowed the room, thick and suffocating. Sarah felt a chill radiate from Musk, a quiet fury coiling behind his steady facade like a predator poised to strike. He stood, buttoning his jacket with slow, deliberate precision, each movement a silent declaration. "I came here thinking Apex Trust valued shaping the future," he said, his voice even but sharp as a blade, cutting through the smugness hanging in the air. "Looks like I was wrong." Harrow rose, offering his hand again with a thin, patronizing smile. "I hope you understand, it's just business." His tone was light, almost mocking, as if he'd won some unspoken game. Musk didn't take the hand. He met Harrow's eyes, his stare icy, unyielding, a promise wrapped in frost. "Everything's business, Mr. Harrow. Everything. He turned and walked out, his footsteps steady against the marble, Sarah gathering the papers in a swift, practiced motion and hurrying after him. As the elevator doors closed with a soft hiss, Harrow chuckled softly, picking up the phone to call his wife. "You won't believe what just happened, Ellie," he said, smugness dripping from his tone like honey over steel. "Elon Musk was here, and I showed him how the real world works, grounded that dreamer right where he stood." But Harrow didn't know that across town, Musk had slid into his Tesla, the engine humming to life beneath him, his gaze locked on Apex Trust's gleaming tower rising against the skyline. "Sarah," he said, his voice low like distant thunder rolling over the plains. "Get me everything on that building, ownership, leases, the works." They just made the biggest mistake of their lives. His fingers tapped the steering wheel, a rhythm of resolve as the car pulled away, leaving the bank behind. But not for long. On the 12th floor of Apex Trust, in a cramped office bathed in sunlight from a single window, Ethan Cole typed furiously at his keyboard, the clatter of keys a steady drumbeat against the hum of the building. At 27, with tousled brown hair and slightly crooked round glasses perched on his nose, he looked more like a fresh-faced grad student than a cog in the bank's machine. But Ethan had something many colleagues lacked: curiosity. A hunger to peel back the layers of numbers and find the stories they hid, the truths they whispered. That day, he overheard a snippet of conversation during lunch that stopped him cold, his sandwich hovering halfway to his mouth. "Harrow shot down Elon Musk," one senior staffer bragged, sipping coffee with a grin, his tie loosened after a long morning. 500 mil for some Mars nonsense? Guy thinks he's in a sci-fi flick, probably expected us to fund his next blockbuster. The other laughed, a sharp, barking sound that grated against Ethan's ears. Harrow laid it out straight. No room for fairy tales at Apex Trust. Classic move. Put him in his place. Ethan paused mid-bite, the bread turning dry in his mouth. Forgotten. Elon Musk, the man he'd idolized since college, when he wrote a thesis on Tesla's disruption of the auto industry, poring over data late into the night under the glow of a dorm room lamp, had been rejected by his bank? It wasn't just odd. It was reckless, a spark tossed into dry grass. He knew Musk didn't let slights slide. His history was littered with those who'd underestimated him and paid dearly. But Ethan kept quiet, returning to his desk with his head down, though a strange unease gnawed at him, a premonition he couldn't shake. That night, long after most had left, Ethan stayed late to finish a report, the only sound the buzz of fluorescent lights overhead casting eerie shadows across the walls. Scanning the internal system, he stumbled on an odd email from the real estate division to the execs, the subject line glaring in bold. "Urgent request for building ownership details." Ethan frowned, his cursor hovering over it. Why the sudden interest in the building right after Musk's visit? He clicked, heart pounding as he skimmed the text, landing on the last line. "Request originates from an unidentified external source. Prioritize immediately." The words hit him like a punch, cryptic, urgent, out of place. Ethan wasn't naive. Something was brewing, and his gut screamed it tied back to Musk, a thread connecting the rejection to this shadowy demand. But his low-level access blocked further digging. His clearance was a locked door, and he didn't have the key. He shut down his computer with a sigh, the screen fading to black, slung his backpack over his shoulder, and left the building, stepping into the cool night air with a question burning in his mind. What's Musk up to? The city lights twinkled around him, indifferent to the unease coiling in his chest, a quiet warning he couldn't ignore. At Tesla HQ, across a few city blocks, lights blazed past midnight, casting a glow that rivaled the stars. Elon Musk sat at his desk, a sprawling Austin property map spread before him like a battlefield, marked with red ink scribbles, arrows, circles, notes scrawled in a hand only he could decipher. Sarah stood nearby, tablet in hand, her voice steady but tinged with excitement, a spark mirroring the energy in the room. "I've got prelims on the Apex Trust building, sir. It's owned by Pacific Crest Holdings, a Hong Kong investment group. They're quietly shopping it. nervous about a tech market crash in Texas, looking to offload before the bottom drops. Musk leaned back in his chair, fingers drumming the desk in a restless rhythm, his mind already racing ahead. "They're scared," he said, almost to himself, his voice a low rumble. "Fear's a weakness. We'll use it. Turn it into leverage." Sarah nodded, pressing on, her fingers swiping across the tablet screen. "Apex Trust's lease expires soon. They're negotiating a renewal, but Pacific Crest wants a quick sale to cut losses. Move fast and they won't see us coming. Not until it's too late." Musk stood, pacing to the floor-to-ceiling window, his silhouette framed against the city's glittering expanse. The lights below sparkled like fallen stars, each one a deal, a chance, a victory waiting to be seized. "Sarah," he said without turning, his breath fogging the glass faintly, "set up 3 shell companies. I want buy offers hitting from multiple angles, different names, different fronts. No one, not even Pacific Crest, can know I'm behind this." His voice was firm, a command carved in stone. Sarah smirked, familiar with his playbook, the way he wove strategy like a spider spinning silk. "I'll call legal now. Get them moving overnight. But what's the end game with the bank once we own it? What's the next step?" Musk faced her, a dangerous glint flashing in his eyes, a predator's gleam. "I'll make them feel the cost of rejecting the future. Harrow thinks he's king of the board, holding all the pieces. He doesn't realize he's just a pawn, and I'm about to flip the table." His lips curved into a faint smile, not of joy, but of certainty. A man who'd already seen the checkmate in his mind. Meanwhile, at James Harrow's Lakeway estate, a sprawling home nestled among rolling hills and shimmering lakes, he savored a glass of red wine by the fireplace, the flames casting dancing shadows across the room. His wife, Eleanor, sat across from him on a plush sofa, her blue eyes curious, reflecting the firelight. "You turned down Elon Musk today?" she asked, her voice soft but edged with intrigue, swirling her own glass. Harrow laughed heartily, the sound rich and unguarded, setting the glass down with a clink on the oak-side table. "Sure did, Ellie." He waltzed in with that cocky grin, begging for $500 million to colonize Mars, like I'd hand over that kind of cash for a pipe dream. I told him flat out, "Apex Trust doesn't fund sci-fi movies." You should have seen his face, froze solid like I'd yanked the rug out from under him. He chuckled again, relishing the memory, the triumph of putting a titan in his place. Eleanor giggled, her laughter light, though unease flickered within her, a shadow crossing her mind. "Aren't you worried, James? I mean, it's Elon Musk. He's not known for letting things go. He's got a reputation for hitting back harder than anyone expects." Harrow waved it off with a dismissive flick of his hand, the firelight glinting off his cufflinks. "Ellie, I've been at this 30 years, seen every kind of hotshot come through that door. Musk might be a tech wizard, dazzling the world with his toys, but this is my turf. Banking, numbers, reality. He can't touch me or Apex Trust. We're rock solid, built on bedrock." His voice carried the weight of certainty, a man who'd weathered storms and emerged unscathed. Yet as he sipped his wine, the rich taste lingering on his tongue, a faint unease brushed his mind, like a whisper on the wind, a warning he couldn't quite hear. It was fleeting, gone as quickly as it came, buried beneath his confidence. He leaned back in his chair, the crackle of the fire filling the silence, unaware that across the city, the gears of his undoing were already turning. Days later, in a dim, windowless coffee shop on South Congress, a hole-in-the-wall joint tucked between boutiques, unnoticed by the bustling crowds, a clandestine meeting unfolded beneath the hum of a single ceiling fan. Ethan Cole, tapped by Musk through a shell company called Texas Horizon, sat across from 3 impeccably dressed Asian men, their suits crisp despite the Texas heat seeping through the walls. The leader, Liang Wei, a Hong Kong investor with a face carved from years of high-stakes deals, eyed Ethan warily, his dark eyes narrowing. "How much is your client offering?" Liang asked, his voice low and deliberate, cutting through the faint clink of coffee cups from the counter. Ethan, nerves jangling beneath his calm exterior, kept his cool, his voice steady from hours of rehearsal. 1.2 billion cash, no contingencies, but the offer expires at midnight. Take it or leave it. He adjusted his glasses, a nervous tick, but held Liang's gaze. Liang frowned, glancing at his companions, a silent exchange of looks that spoke volumes. The building's worth more, he countered, his tone firm. Apex Trust is our anchor tenant, stable, long-term. You're lowballing us. True, Ethan replied, leaning forward slightly, his words sharp and practiced. But you know Texas Tech's shaky. Rumors of a downturn are spreading. Hold off, and it could drop to half that in months. My client guarantees speed and silence. No one will know Pacific Crest bailed. You walk away clean. He clasped his hands on the table, projecting confidence he barely felt. The air grew taut. The fans hum a steady drone as Liang weighed the offer. After an hour of tense haggling, numbers thrown back and forth, silences stretching like tightropes, Liang nodded, a single decisive motion. Deal. Get the papers ready, now. Ethan exited the shop, heart racing, the weight of the moment pressing against his ribs. He stepped into the humid air, pulling out his phone with trembling fingers, and dialed Sarah. "They're in," he said, voice quivering with adrenaline, the words tumbling out. "We've got the building." At Tesla HQ, Musk took the news with a rare smile, a fleeting curve of his lips that vanished as quickly as it came. "Good," he said, rising from his chair to the map spread across his desk, its edges curling slightly. "Now, Sarah, call SpaceX Techs. I want them in Apex Trust tomorrow morning. Drones, 3D scanners, the works. Check everything. Networks, power, security. Make the bank feel us pulling the bricks from under them, one by one." His voice was a blade, precise and unrelenting. Sarah nodded, tapping her tablet to send the orders, then paused, her brow creasing. "What if they push back? The bank's not small, they've got lawyers, influence." Musk's eyes turned to steel, glinting under the office lights. "They won't get the chance. By the time they figure it out, it'll be too late." He turned back to the window, the city sprawling below, a chessboard he intended to dominate. The next morning, James Harrow strode into his office, the familiar scent of polished wood and coffee greeting him as he settled behind his desk. The phone rang almost instantly, his secretary's voice cutting through the quiet. "Sir, Texas Horizon's on the line. They say it's urgent. Won't wait." Harrow scowled, a flicker of irritation crossing his face as he grabbed the receiver. "Harrow speaking," he snapped, his tone clipped. A cool, emotionless voice answered, each word measured like a legal decree. "Good morning, Mr. Harrow. As of 9 a.m., ownership of the Apex Trust building has transferred to new management. We're launching a full tech inspection within 24 hours. All tenants should prepare for potential relocation within 30 days. Standard procedure." Harrow's blood drained from his face, the receiver trembling in his grip. 30 days, he barked, his voice rising, cracking at the edges. "This is a bank, not a corner store. We've got security systems, vaults, infrastructure. Do you have any idea what that means? You can't just—" "We do," the voice cut in, flat and unyielding. "But the decision's final. Have a good day, Mr. Harrow." The line went dead with a click, leaving silence in its wake. The phone slipped from Harrow's hand, clattering onto the desk. He bolted to the window, his breath fogging the glass as he peered down at the lobby far below. Dozens of SpaceX engineers in branded gear streamed in like an invading force, wielding drones that buzzed like hornets and laser scanners flashing red beams across the marble floor. Bank staff scrambled in panic, shouts echoing up the atrium, phones ringing off the hook in a cacophony of chaos. Harrow's mind spun, a whirlwind of disbelief and dawning horror. This wasn't coincidence. It couldn't be. Musk, the man he'd mocked days ago, the dreamer he'd dismissed with a smirk, was behind it all, a ghost pulling strings he hadn't even seen. On the 12th floor, Ethan Cole blended into the chaos, heart hammering against his ribs as he stood among a crowd of frantic co-workers. He spotted the SpaceX logos emblazoned on the engineers' jackets, the drones darting overhead like mechanical birds of prey. "No way," he whispered, his breath catching. "He bought the whole damn building." The realization hit him like a freight train. Musk hadn't just walked away. He'd struck back with a vengeance that shook the foundations beneath their feet. Ethan's mind raced. He knew he had to act, but how? Warn Harrow, a man who barely knew his name? Or stay silent and watch the dominoes fall? A spectator to a disaster he'd sensed coming? His hands clenched into fists, nails digging into his palms as the noise around him swelled. Upstairs, Harrow stumbled back from the window, his legs unsteady, and sank into his chair. His hands shook as he dialed the board chair, Olivia Grant, his voice hoarse when she answered. "Olivia, we've got a problem. A big one. The building's been sold out from under us. They're talking relocation in 30 days. SpaceX is here, tearing the place apart." Olivia's voice crackled through the line, sharp with alarm. "What? How did this happen, James? Who's behind it?" Harrow swallowed hard, the name lodging in his throat like a stone. "I don't know for sure, but it's got Musk written all over it. Those engineers, they're his. This is retaliation, Olivia. I turned him down, and now he's hitting us where it hurts." His words tumbled out, laced with panic he couldn't suppress. "Retaliation?" Olivia's tone hardened. "You rejected a loan and he buys our headquarters? That's insane, even for him. Get the legal team on this, James. We're not moving a damn bank in 30 days. Find out who's pulling the strings and stop this." She hung up, leaving Harrow staring at the receiver, his pulse pounding in his ears. Downstairs, the lobby had become a battlefield. SpaceX engineers moved with clinical precision, their drones weaving through the air, scanners mapping every inch of the space. Bank staff clustered in knots, voices overlapping in a rising tide of fear. "What's happening?" one teller hissed, clutching a stack of files. "Are we shutting down?" Another, a junior analyst, shook his head, eyes wide. "It's Musk. Has to be. I heard he was here last week. This is payback." The whispers spread like wildfire, a current of dread electrifying the air. Ethan slipped away from the crowd, retreating to his office, where he locked the door and sank into his chair. He pulled up the internal system, fingers flying over the keys, searching for anything. Emails, memos, clues. He found another message from real estate, time-stamped late last night. "Ownership transfer confirmed. Prepare for immediate tenant notification." His stomach dropped. It was real, irrevocable. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair, his mind a tangle of awe and terror. Musk hadn't just outmaneuvered them. He'd rewritten the game. Ethan's idol had become their executioner, and he was caught in the crossfire, a nobody with no power to stop it. Across town, Musk stood in Tesla HQ's command center, a glass-walled room overlooking the city, watching live feeds from the drones on a bank of screens. The images flickered. Engineers scanning server rooms, drones hovering over security vaults, staff scattering like ants under a magnifying glass. Sarah stood beside him, tablet glowing in her hands. "They're rattled," she reported, a faint grin tugging at her lips. "Harrow's been on the phone with the board, legal's scrambling. They still don't know it's you." Musk nodded, his expression unreadable, though a spark of satisfaction glinted in his eyes. "Good. Keep it that way. Let them chase ghosts. Send the tech team deeper. Hit the trading floor next. I want every nerve in that bank frayed by noon." He turned to the window, the city sprawling beneath him, a kingdom he intended to reshape. By midday, Apex Trust was unraveling. The trading floor, a nerve center of blinking screens and shouting brokers, ground to a halt as SpaceX drones buzzed overhead, their beams slicing through the chaos. A senior trader slammed his phone down, swearing under his breath. "We just lost a $10 million deal. Client pulled out when he heard about this mess. What the hell are we supposed to do?" His colleague, pale and sweating, shook his head. "Move a bank in 30 days? It's impossible. Vaults, networks, client trust, all gone." Harrow stormed through the floor, his tie askew, barking orders at anyone in earshot. "Get legal on the line now. I want injunctions, restraining orders. Anything to stop this." His voice cracked, desperation seeping through the cracks in his composure. He retreated to his office, slamming the door, and dialed Olivia again. "It's worse than we thought," he rasped. "They're tearing us apart. Literally. SpaceX is everywhere, and the staff's panicking. We're bleeding clients already." Olivia's response was ice cold. "Fix this, James. You started it. You end it. The board's meeting tomorrow. Be ready with answers, or a resignation." The line went dead, and Harrow slumped into his chair, staring at the family photos on his shelf. The Maldives seemed a lifetime away, Yale a fading memory. His empire was crumbling, and he couldn't see the way out. A week later, Apex Trust was a war zone, a shadow of its former glory. The stock plummeted 15%, a jagged red line on every financial screen in the city. Senior staff resigned in droves. Vice presidents updating LinkedIn profiles with trembling hands, assistants whispering farewells in break rooms. Major clients pulled funds, their calls flooding the switchboard with demands for assurances the bank couldn't give. Harrow faced an emergency board meeting, standing before a room of furious, exhausted faces, the air thick with tension. "James, what the hell did you do?" Olivia Grant snarled, her voice a whip crack, her gray eyes boring into him from the head of the table. "You rejected Musk, and now we're losing our headquarters, our reputation, everything." "I followed protocol," Harrow roared, his voice breaking, raw with desperation. "He's insane. Buying a building over a no? Who does that? I was protecting us, keeping us grounded." "Protecting us?" Olivia shot back, her gaze cutting like glass. "You underestimated him, James. You poked a bear and didn't expect it to bite. Who does that? And now we're the ones bleeding." She slammed a hand on the table, the sound echoing in the silent room. Harrow's hands shook as he gripped the edge of his chair, his mind reeling. "I didn't think... He's not rational. Buying a building to spite me, it's madness." "Madness that's working," board member Daniel Pierce cut in, his voice low, weary. "Clients are jumping ship. Next-gen banks poaching them with waived fees. Our stock's a free fall. We can't move a bank in 30 days. It's vaults, systems, trust. We're done unless we fight back." Harrow nodded, clinging to a shred of hope. "Legal's working on it. Trying to trace the buyer, block the inspections. We'll sue if we have to. Tie this up in court for years." Olivia's laugh was bitter, hollow. "Years? We won't last months. Fix this, James, or you're out. Tomorrow we decide the bank's future. Be ready." She stood, the others following, leaving Harrow alone in the cavernous room, the weight of their stares lingering like ghosts. Across town, Musk stood in Apex Trust's lobby, a conqueror surveying his prize. Engineers swarmed around him, drones buzzing, scanners humming, while bank staff stared in awe and dread, a hushed crowd parted by his presence. The air crackled with tension, the marble floor reflecting the chaos above. Harrow burst from the elevator, his face flushed with rage and desperation, his once pristine suit wrinkled, tie dangling like a noose. "Musk!" he bellowed, his voice echoing off the glass walls, raw and unhinged. "What do you want? The building? You win. Take it. Just leave us alone." He stopped a few feet away, chest heaving, eyes wild with a mix of fury and plea. Musk turned slowly, his expression calm but razor-sharp, a stillness that made the chaos around him feel louder. "Mr. Harrow," he said, his voice low, steady, cutting through the noise like a blade through silk. "I don't want the building. I want you to see the future doesn't wait, and you chose to stand outside it, laughing. This is the price." His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning, a verdict delivered without malice but with unrelenting truth. Harrow trembled, defiance flaring through his despair, a dying ember refusing to fade. "Who do you think you are? Some god playing with lives? You can't do this!" His fists clenched, knuckles white, his voice a ragged shout. Musk's smile was thin, almost imperceptible, a shadow of amusement. "No, just a man who makes numbers tell the truth, and yours lied to you, didn't they?" He stepped closer, his gaze locking onto Harrow's, unblinking. "You thought you held power, sitting up there in your tower, deciding what's real. But power isn't a desk or a title, it's vision. And you're blind." Harrow's legs buckled and he sank to the floor, hands clutching his head. a broken king dethroned. His breaths came in gasps, the weight of his pride crashing down, a lifetime of certainty shattered in moments. Around him, the lobby fell silent, staff frozen, engineers pausing mid-task, all eyes on the showdown, a titan and a man undone by his own hubris. In the corner, Ethan Cole watched, heart heavy, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He'd slipped down from his office, drawn by the commotion, and now stood witness to the endgame. He'd seen it all. Harrow's arrogance in that meeting, the whispers of Musk's rejection, the slow unraveling of the bank he'd called home. Awe battled with sorrow in his chest. Musk, his idol, had dismantled an empire with a precision that was both brilliant and ruthless. But at what cost? Ethan's hands tightened around the strap, his mind a storm of questions. Was this justice or vengeance? Triumph or tragedy? Musk turned away from Harrow, his engineers resuming their work as if nothing had happened. The drone's hum filling the void. He glanced at Sarah, who'd appeared at his side, tablet in hand. "Tech report's ready," she said quietly. "Building's fine, better than fine. We could stop now." Musk shook his head, his voice a whisper meant only for her. "Not yet. Let them feel it a little longer. Let the lesson sink in. Then we pull back." He walked toward the exit, the crowd parting before him, leaving Harrow crumpled on the floor, a man reduced to a shadow of himself. That night, Harrow sat alone in his office, the lights dim, the city's glow filtering through the blinds in slanted stripes. His desk, once a symbol of order, was buried in papers. Resignation letters, client withdrawal notices, legal briefs that led nowhere. He stared at the family photos, their frames gathering dust. The Maldives, Yale, the governor's handshake, relics of a life that felt like someone else's now. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Sometimes the best deal is the one your opponent never sees coming. Sleep well, James. EM." He didn't reply. Couldn't. The words burned into his mind, a taunt and a truth he couldn't escape. Ethan, meanwhile, sat on his apartment balcony, a cheap beer in hand, staring at the skyline where Apex Trust's tower stood, its lights flickering like a wounded beast. He'd spent the evening replaying the day. Musk's words, Harrow's fall, the bank's descent. His laptop glowed beside him, a job application half-finished for a Silicon Valley startup. He couldn't stay, not after this. Musk had shown him something. Vision wasn't just ambition, it was a weapon, a force that reshaped reality. Ethan wanted to be part of that, not a bystander in a crumbling institution. He took a sip, the bitterness sharp, and typed on, the night stretching endlessly before him. Months later, Apex Trust was a ghost of its past. The board, desperate to survive, voted to merge with Next Gen Bank, a rival that swooped in with a generous offer. 60% staff retained, the brand reduced to a branch name, a footnote in history. The headquarters was sold off cheap, its once proud facade stripped of the Apex logo, replaced by a stark, bold Musk in gleaming steel letters. Harrow fled Austin, retreating to a quiet Idaho town, a modest house far from the glittering lakes of Lakeway. He unpacked boxes in a small office, his hands trembling as he set out the old photos, their edges curling. His wife found him staring out the window at an orange-red sunset, a far cry from Austin's neon glow. "James," she said softly, touching his arm. "Dinner's ready." He nodded but didn't move, his voice a whisper. "I had it all, Ellie. Everything. And I lost it thinking I was too big to fall." Ethan Cole quit Apex days after the merger vote, packing his desk into a single box. Notebooks, a coffee mug, a worn copy of Musk's biography he'd kept hidden in a drawer. He landed a job at a Silicon Valley startup, a scrappy outfit chasing renewable energy dreams, and moved west with a mix of fear and hope. On his first day, he stood outside the gleaming office, the California sun warm on his face, and thought of Musk, not the man in the lobby, but the idea of him. "Never underestimate a dreamer," he murmured, stepping inside, ready to build something new. Elon Musk stood atop Tesla HQ, the city sprawling beneath him in the twilight, a tapestry of lights and shadows. The Apex Trust building, his building now, glowed in the distance, a beacon of his victory, a reminder etched in steel. Sarah approached, a final report in hand. "Merger's closing soon," she said. "NextGen signed a new lease, triple the old rate. Stocks stabilized, but the bank's a shell of what it was." Musk nodded, his gaze distant. "Good. Reach out tomorrow. Offer flexible terms." The goal wasn't to bury them, just to teach them. Message delivered. His voice was quiet, reflective, a rare glimpse beneath the armor. Sarah raised an eyebrow, surprised. "I thought you wanted them gone, out of the way." Musk turned, a faint smile on his lips, not of triumph but of wisdom. The goal was to show them, and everyone, that blocking the future has a cost. They'll rebuild, others will learn. That's enough. He raised a glass of water to the city, a silent toast. To business and to knowing when to stop. The city moved on, its rhythm unbroken. Deals were struck, fortunes won and lost, the great game rolling forward. In private clubs and executive suites, bankers whispered of Harrow's fall, a cautionary tale traded over cigars and whiskey. "Heard from James?" one asked another at a downtown bar, the clink of glasses punctuating the hum of conversation. "Not a word," came the reply. "Wife says they're traveling, hiding out more like. Can't show his face after that." In Silicon Valley, Ethan thrived, his startup landing a breakthrough contract, his name whispered among the next generation of innovators. He kept a photo on his desk, not of family, but of that day in the lobby, a grainy shot from his phone, Musk standing over Harrow's crumpled form. A reminder, vision wins, pride loses. And Musk? He stood by his window, the city a chessboard he'd mastered once more. The Apex Trust saga became legend, a story of a rejected loan turned into a power play that shook Austin to its core. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. A building bought, a lesson taught, a future claimed. He didn't gloat, didn't need to. The tower stood as his voice, silent but deafening. In the high-stakes world of tech and finance, those who don't move forward get left behind, their towers toppled by dreamers who dare. As night cloaked Austin, two men lay awake, miles apart, their thoughts a mirror of opposites. In Idaho, James Harrow stared at a ceiling stained with time, replaying every word, every choice, wondering where it went wrong. A king who'd lost his crown to his own blindness. In Austin, Elon Musk gazed at the stars through his penthouse glass, plotting the next move, the next dream. A man who'd turned rejection into a stepping stone, proving once again why his name was both feared and revered. The city slept, but the story lingered. A testament to the power of vision, the peril of pride, chance, and the quiet truth that sometimes the greatest victories need no words, only the echo of a tower reclaimed.
Under Austin's golden dawn, where the city hums alive, a man rolled in with a vision, sparks of stars in his eyes. He walked into that tower, glass and steel so cold, asked for wings to touch the sky, but they laughed and said no. They called him just a dreamer, spinning tales too wild to tame. A fool who chased the heavens while they guarded their old game. But he gripped the wheel in silence, with a fire they couldn't see. Whispered low, you'll feel this flame, it's gonna burn through history. Oh, the dreamer's fire, it don't fade away. It builds a world while the doubters decay. From a single they'd won the day. A king behind his desk, waving futures all away. But the man they scorned was moving, shadows dancing in his plan. Bought the ground beneath their feet, turned their castle into sand. Drones came buzzing like a warning, scanners cut the marble stone. Their empire shook, their voices broke as he claimed it for his own. Not for gold, not for glory, but to show what they couldn't see. The future bows to no one's throne, it's built by those who dream. Oh, the dreamer's fire, it don't fade away. It builds a world while the doubters decay. From a single spark, he'll rewrite the sky. He'll rewrite the sky. Take a tower down with a vision that flies. No chains can hold what's meant to be free. The dreamer's fire.